And what I can only describe as a holy moment. See, I'm not going to swear, but I can pretend like I'm going to swear. California, Ohio, and Illinois release hundreds of inmates early to decrease the prison population during coronavirus crisis, while some districts say they will not pursue prosecutions for low-level crimes. Yikes, man. This is the kind of stuff that's starting to freak me out. Our elections are in shambles. That's the next segment I'm going to do. Our prisons are releasing people. Businesses are being shut down. Dare I say, if anything was going to freak me out, it's this. Because we saw what happened in San Francisco when they said they're not really going after low-level crimes. Crimes dramatically increased. You're now going to have a bunch of people who are scared, hungry, not trusting of the government, and them then saying low-level crimes are not going to be prosecuted. What do you think people are going to do when they hear that? At a time of crisis, no less. Look, when they went out in San Fran and said, we're not going to go after these crimes, people went out and committed crimes. Combine that with a crisis. And I think this is scary stuff, man. The Daily Mail reports prisons in California, Illinois, and Ohio are releasing hundreds of inmates early to decrease prison populations in an effort to combat the potential spread of coronavirus among inmates. As of Tuesday morning, no prison in the United States has reported a case of COVID-19, but many county, state, and federal jails and courthouses are beginning to take preventative measures to ensure the safety of inmates. Inmates are considered high risk because of their inability to social distance from others and their limited access to basic hygiene measures. In response, Los Angeles County in California, Cuyahoga County in Ohio, and Cook County in Illinois have released or are planning to release inmates to allow for more space of social distancing and self-isolation. In Brooklyn, low-level crimes will also not be prosecuted to limit potential exposure to the virus for employees and visitors. Los Angeles County has decreased its prison population by 600 people to combat the potential spread of the coronavirus among inmates. And come on, man, California is already in trouble for so many reasons. Look, man, I can't say that the prisons are wrong to do this. I don't know what to do. I am not the expert. I can only tell you that if things are getting this bad, I'm starting to freak out a little bit. Early release is being granted to those with less than 30 days in their sentence. Okay. That's not so bad. Reducing inmates from 17,076 to 16,459 since the end of February. The LA County Sheriff is also asking officers to cite and release offenders when possible, which has reduced the daily number of arrests from 300 to 60. The moves in LA County, where there are 94 coronavirus cases and 1 death, have seen daily arrests drop from 300 to 60, Sheriff Alex Villanueva said Monday at a news conference. He added that the aggregate bond amount for people to be booked also went up from 25,000 to 50,000. Our population within the jail is a vulnerable population just by virtue of who they are and where they're located. So we're protecting that population from potential exposure. There are already 9 inmates in the county in isolation at a correctional treatment center, 21 inmates in the quarantine at the Men's Central Jail, and 5 in quarantine at the Twin Towers Correctional Facility. Staff in these locations are said to be taking the temperature of anyone entering looking for fevers, but that is symptomatic. We know people can transmit this when they're asymptomatic. So yes, I get it. You're looking for fevers, but is that really going to stop this? I don't think so. I don't think we got a handle on this, man. But they say, but staff themselves are also at risk, and several have already been placed in self-isolation. Over the weekend, we've had several of our personnel come into contact, and they have been self-isolated, Villanueva said. However, fortunately, no one has actually tested positive for the virus. That's good for now. Other prisons around the country are taking measures to prevent spread among inmates and staff. The U.S.'s 122 federal prisons and many of the 1,700 plus state prisons have banned visitors and volunteers. The Federal Bureau of Prisons announced its ban Friday, joining most state and county prisons. They have also banned lawyer visits for 30 days. In response, many federal prisons are increasing the number of prisoner phone calls or the total number of minutes allotted. Prisons in Delaware, Georgia, Maryland, Ohio, and South Dakota are looking to expand video calling abilities for inmates. In Cleveland, Ohio, Cuyahoga County's Common Pleas Court held extra hearings on Saturday to try and clear the prison population, releasing 200 people since Friday. Those released were said to be low-level nonviolent inmates, who have been placed on probation or released by having their bond reduced to a manageable level. Wait. To a manageable level? Sounds to me like they gave people bond they knew they wouldn't be able to afford. What is this? We are trying to make as much room as possible. So when this virus hits our jail, the jail can deal with these people, quarantine them, and deal with it instead of letting them sit there and infect the whole entire jail, said Administrative Judge Brendan Sheehan. You gotta remember, the goal of this is to protect the community and the safety of the inmates. If someone's a serious violent person, well, we are using our discretion to make sure the community is safe also, he added. We can see numerous photos. Coronavirus in the U.S. has now reached 5,244 known cases. Additionally, staff are reaching out to other jurisdictions regarding detainees who are in custody due to outstanding warrants on low-level offenses. Sheriff's staff are asking those jurisdictions to either quash those warrants or geographically limit them so that those detainees can be released from Cook County Jail. New arrivals in Cook County, which has a population of 5,600, the jail, will now be kept in a receiving area to be monitored for symptoms before being placed with the general population. And in Illinois state prisons, the 40,000 inmates plus staff will have increased access to hand sanitizer and soap. In Massachusetts, Essex County Sheriff Kevin Coppinger's office, Coppinger, revealed that 30 men who had been in community sober homes are now at the jail's pre-release center so they could be monitored for illness. Sheriff Coppinger said that it was so treatment could be provided on site if the men became ill. And in Houston, Texas, the Harris County Juvenile Court announced that the court wing will be fully closed until further notice. A person who had been at the court tested positive for the coronavirus, as did an employee at a correctional facility in Pennsylvania, where 34 inmates and staffers are now in quarantine. Man, there's a lot to this. Whoa. In Brooklyn, District Attorney Eric Gonzalez said Tuesday that low-level offenses that don't jeopardize public safety will not be prosecuted amid the outbreak in an attempt to reduce the potential exposure of employees and visitors to the virus during the arrest, processing, and detention process. During this public health emergency, it is imperative that we also protect those who might be exposed to the coronavirus during the procedures of an arrest, processing, and detention and central booking, he said in a statement posted to Twitter, adding that they will immediately decline to prosecute low-level offenses that don't jeopardize public safety. Now, to a certain degree, I think that's fine, man. I mean, I don't understand why we're constantly locking up people for doing things that don't pose any serious threat to public safety. Now, I get it. There are certain arguments, and it's hard to know what one would consider to be a threat to public safety, but like personal consumption of certain substances, man, I'm very libertarian minded in that regard. You want to go do your thing, do it in your home, do it in the privacy, of your own house, and that's fine by me. But there are probably some non-violent offenses that I'm not thinking of that we might want to keep those people locked up. Suffice it to say, if we're reaching this point where we're now releasing people early and refusing to prosecute low-level offenses, this is I don't want to say it, but it feels like the system is buckling under serious strain. I think we're going to be okay, but man, this is the kind of stuff that freaks me out for sure. The preventative actions come after evidence from previous outbreaks, such as the outbreak of mumps in Texas and New Jersey in 2019, heightened the risk to the country's prison population. Prisoners have limited access to basic hygiene measures and high rates of existing health issues. Those being held in handcuffs also can't cough into their elbows as advised, and alcohol-based sanitizer is considered contraband in many U.S. prisons. U.S. prisoners have a higher than average rate of HIV and are more likely to be smokers than the general population, and they are an aging population. So they have the statement here. It's posted by the AG in Brooklyn. They say from 1990 to 2012, the U.S. prison population aged 55 and older increased by 550%. Inmates have no way to social distance or self-isolate if there was an outbreak in prison. You can't keep a 2 to 3 foot distance from inmates, and they can't keep that distance themselves. Some experts have advised that the only way to fight against a prison coronavirus outbreak is to reduce the number of imprisoned people. Oh, man. And this is what Iran did. And they ended up letting out like tens of thousands of people. This method was used in Iran, the country with the third worst outbreak, with 70,000 prisoners temporarily released after China reported 3 provinces with more than 500 cases in prisons during the height of the outbreak. In the best of scenarios, we would only hope to delay this. Josiah Rich, a Brown University epidemiologist and director of the Center for Prisoner Health and Human Rights, told The Guardian. And because we have so many ill people behind bars, it's going to get there. It's going to spread like wildfire. The United States accounts for 22% of the world's prison population, with around 2.3 million people incarcerated. Look, man, I think it makes sense that we don't want these viruses spreading throughout these prisons. And I think if the only solution is to reduce the strain on the prisons, that also makes sense too. I also recognize this means there's going to be consequences, like I mentioned with San Francisco. We'll see what happens. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.